Hello, everyone. This is Sister Roland, and I'm here in another podcast. And all I'm going to need is a few minutes. And today we are going to be talking about the asylum seekers and a lot of issues people are having with them coming through and the numbers that they are coming in. Because as we know, people seeking asylum, immigrants come here each and every day. Some of them get caught, some of them don't. But now they are coming in droves. And they started coming droves way before Title 42 ended too. So as you know, Title 42 ended May 11th at 11:59, and there were a lot of people waiting at the borders to cross over to get over in the United States. So, what is Title 42? It's not even Title 42. It's just this is part of, the asylum seekers and the issues people are having, all the things that they are getting. So, Title 42, what was that? Let me get it on my computer. Okay. Title 40, Title 42 is part of the Public Health Service Act of 1944. Its purpose is to help prevent the spread of communicable diseases in the U.S., responding to a cholera epidemic. Cholera was an epidemic. Congress passed a law in 1893 that later became Title 42. So this was around a long time ago. They just used it because of the pandemic, that happened. So we're gonna do so this came into effect. Trump put this back in effect because of COVID, and so according to Title 42, whenever the U.S. Director of the CDC, Center for Disease Control, determines there is a communicable disease in another country, health officials have the authority, with approval of the president, to prohibit the introduction of persons and properties from such countries or places, as long as health officials determine is necessary. The authority was held by the U.S. Surgeon General until it was transferred to the CDC director in 1966. So the director of the CDC, I guess, assess different information and say, hey, president, how cool they are. Um, this certain countries, we need to ban them from coming in. And as you know, what came through C-19, they just closed the borders to a lot of countries. This was when Trump was in office. And he activated this in March 2020. So they were turning away anybody that came near the border, they turned you away. That's it. So the Trump administration enacted the Title 42, and they were turning a lot of people away that were seeking asylum in the United States. What is a what is asylum? Get my dictionary. Asylum, a place that provides care for helpless people such as orphans or the insane. Second definition, shelter or protection such as that sought by a fugitive. Some countries, some people may be considered fugitives from their country only because, they don't agree with the government, but they didn't actually commit any crimes. So some countries grant asylum to political fugitives. Some countries grant asylum to political fugitives from other countries, a place that provides safety or protection, such as a church. So one of my friends, after she learned that I was also an asylum seeker that got granted asylum, She was like, maybe you should research this and talk about this and see all the benefits that she was telling me the benefits that some of the asylum seekers were getting. I was like, I didn't get that. And then she's like, maybe you could talk about it, because at least you're familiar with it. If you have watched this channel, if I'm familiar with something or not familiar with it, if I'm interested in it, I'm gonna talk about it. But I probably wasn't gonna talk about this. So since she requested it, that I said, let me go do some research. So one thing I don't understand, there was the Title 42 was put in the Trump administration, but Biden really didn't like it for whatever reason. But there was, before it expired, there was still migrants come being able to come through. Because remember, the governor in Texas, he there was like when they come through Texas, he put all them on the bus and send them to Washington D.C. So the first bus, I think it started in April of last year, because I'm not sure if it was supposed to end April of last year and it didn't, but it did, and it definitely ended this year. So first bus, this article from the Texas Tribune, let's show you. Okay, that's what I'm reading. Say first bus of migrants arrive in Washington, D.C. from Texas under Abbott's new controversial plan. So it was about 30 people, and they came from Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. And that was Greg Abbott. So the governor said the order is in response. So he made an order that the bus, as soon as they come in, or they let them in, or they at the border, or whatever. I don't know what the process was. We're gonna bus them all to Washington D.C. So the governor, which is Greg Abbott, say the governor said the order is in response to the Biden administration decision to end Title 42. So they wanted to end Title 42, like I said, from last year, and a pandemic era emergency health order that allowed immigration authorities at the border to deny entry to migrants, even those seeking asylum. So I guess since when Trump said no, no, don't let them in, not a lot of people people still trying to come through, but not a lot of people was trying to come through. But I guess when Biden maybe came in, that's when they were trying, even though it had not ended, that's when they were trying to get in, back in the country. So when the health order goes away at the end of May, federal authorities expect as many as 18,000 migrants a day. Wow. So it was supposed to end last year. And this is what's happening now in 2023. They are coming in the droves. So Abbott said last week that Texas would bus migrants to the nation's capital, where the Biden administration could better deal with them. Because Abbott was like, look here, we can't deal with all these people. We don't have the capacity and the funds and the programs and the place and the shelter to keep them. But since y'all want to end it before y'all even put a plan in place to accommodate 18,000 people, there's nothing wrong with letting people in, but with the amount of people coming through, do you have the programs? Do you have the shelter? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the manpower to accommodate all of these people coming through? Not all of these people are going to have families. Some of them, they're going to have family. And even the ones that have family, they are going to need a way to contact. Do you have phones, that could call different area codes and whatever, so that they could reach out to their family? How will they get to their family? So I don't know was there a plan put in place to accommodate all of these people that will be coming through. So the fact that Greg Abbott, and I think DeSantis did it too. So it was like buses arriving each and every day. I think one time a bus showed up at Kamala Harris' home. There was just busing people. I mean, busing the migrants. all over the place. So now Title 42 has ended. There's no banning them or whatever. They are able to come through. I'm not sure how they allow them through, if they supposed to, because I know some other countries are giving certain people visas. I'm not sure how they're getting in, but they are getting in, and they are coming in daily in a large amount, in a very large amount. So now there's so much controversy with the amount of people that's coming and what's being done to them, how they are being provided. This clip, it was a meeting in Chicago where a lot of the residents were very upset because they are taking funds that could be used for the citizens of Chicago, for the residents of Chicago, and they are using it to take care of the asylum seekers. So let's watch this.
This is one of the last known locations that migrants were calling home temporarily, the Inn of Chicago right here off of O'Hare and St. Clair, and it's come with a really costly stay, over $60 million in state funding. And as of right now, there's a push to actually get these asylum seekers jobs, and they could be getting employment right here at this hotel. This is the legislation first introduced in February of 2023, proposing that an asylum seeker would be able to work in 30 days. Right now, the legal process is in several months to get employment in the U.S.
Right now, a lot of them want to work, but they have to wait 6 to 9 months just to get approval to work.
Michael Jacobson is the president and CEO of the Illinois Hotel and Lodging Association. He was recently in D.C. advocating for the bill. It would minimize the burden on employers during a historic labor shortage, including the hotel industry.
We have 1,600 open positions in hotels just in the city of Chicago today, and we have thousands of migrants looking to work.
But neighbors say here at Inn of Chicago, there's a big problem with the work some migrants are already doing.
They're hanging out on the sidewalks. They're hanging out in the alleys. People have been solicited, including myself.
Solicited for what?
Prostitution.
Yes.
We're just going to keep it real.
We reached out to Governor Pritzker's office to see how much the hotel stays are costing the state. Governor Pritzker's office says there were over 2,000 migrants sheltering in 12 hotels as of April 25th. 98% of those people moved to independent housing. In January, $90 million from the Illinois General Assembly was helping to provide care for the migrants, including many in Chicago. Over $60 million of that was used for hotel shelter services, including staffing and rooms. We did reach back out to the governor's office to get clarification on if all the migrants moved out of the hotels and didn't get an answer. Inn of Chicago's website says they are temporarily closed until July of 2023. Residents say they hope something changes soon.
So the police can't do anything about it, because the lady there was telling me when the police come in, they can't arrest them because they have no documentation.
The state of Illinois has spent over $150 million to assist asylum seekers since August of 2022. Tia Ewing, Fox 32, Chicago.
Are set to vote on a plan to devote $51 million to migrant housing. It's soliciting a passionate response. Joni Lum is live with some pretty tense moments during the debate. Not too surprising, Joni, given what we've heard.
Yes, and it's still going on. This ordinance of providing funding for asylum seekers has caused emotions to run high. The most vocal responses in a long time in city council. In fact, police had to move in at one point to calm the meeting. People attending the meeting shouted and they heckled the speakers during the public speaking portion of the meeting, whether advocating for funding migrant needs or for investment in black and brown communities. One man, Tyrone Muhammad, an ex-offender who is against the measure, police removed him from the meeting. Longtime Chicagoans say it is difficult to watch leaders suddenly come up with $51 million for new immigrants when Chicago neighborhoods remain underserved.
Should not be housed in impoverished and marginalized black and brown communities where we have food shortages and homelessness.
I don't know if you've actually talked to these refugees who come here, but what they need are homes and jobs. The same that the people who live here need as well.
How dare this mayor and city council have the guts to give migrants $51 million. I demand you to have the same passion and urgency to pass the City of Chicago reparations ordinance.
People should be treated with care and compassion so they can live their lives with dignity and respect. However, when recently arrived families are sleeping on the floors of police stations with nowhere to go, we know that Chicago is not living up to its values.
So the news know they shady. They did not have to say that man was an ex-offender. Very shady. It's obvious that there was not a plan placed before all of the migrants came through the United States and the states that were willing to accommodate them. There was not. They didn't have funds already put in place for them, where they didn't probably have to dip into funds for the actual residents of that state, because they approved $51 million for migrant housing. And this makes a lot of people upset, because when you look at Chicago, there are places in Chicago that they probably was been trying to advocate and solicit for funding, for changes. They need updates to certain areas, and they never got it. And then as soon as, you know, the migrants came through, you already have $51 million for them in housing. So you have to understand where the people of Chicago are coming from. You can't say, oh, well, it does not matter. Oh, that's the migrants, where they're going to live and stuff like that. You have to understand both sides. You have to understand both sides. With the guy saying that they need jobs, the hotel industry need people to work, and they can't fill those positions. And like we know, when the pandemic came, a lot of people stopped working. It was very difficult for a lot of employers to find people to work. Nobody wanted to work. So now they have these people coming through willing to work. They will advocate. I'm telling you, whoever pushed for them to get that $51 million is business owners. Business owners that were lobbyists, or that were lobbyists to the city council. That's why you have to position yourself, either get a very good job or a business and have a successful business. There you have influence. I can guarantee you they got that $51 million for migrant housing from the business owners that need people to work, and they cannot find people in Chicago to work. So hey, all these people willing to work, yes, they look like they doing some shady stuff because they need money. But if we open the door, they only doing it. They probably say they're only doing this because they don't have no jobs. As soon as you get them jobs, they're not going to be doing what they're doing no more. So, like I said, I can guarantee you, their business owners advocated for this $51 million for them, because you know, if they have housing and then they have a job, they'll be good. But the residents of Chicago are upset because there are people in Chicago that been living there for years, and y'all never moved this quick for them. But who is advocating for y'all? Who's advocating? Because I'm looking at all spectrums, at all sides, and you have to understand both sides of this this issue.
This is recognized for 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Japal, and distinguished members of the committee. It is an honor to be here. I thank you for the invitation to share my testimony. My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked, and we don't know if they're going to get the help they need. For nearly a decade, unaccompanied children have been suffering in the shadows, and I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex emergency intake site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the US border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children. As for me, my interest is the safety of the children. I do not view this as a political issue. I view this as a humanitarian issue. I assure you, my motives are the highest and best. I want the children protected. So I want to tell you some of what I witnessed personally at the Pomona Fairplex. I saw vulnerable indigenous children from Guatemala who speak Mayan dialects and cannot speak Spanish. That means they cannot ask for help in English. They cannot ask for help in Spanish. They become captives of their sponsors. I have sat with case managers as they've cried to tell me the horror of what has happened to children as they make the journey to this country. I saw apartment buildings where 20, 30, and 40 unaccompanied minors have been released. I saw sponsors trying to simultaneously sponsor children from multiple ORR sites at one time. I saw sponsors using multiple addresses to obtain sponsorships of children. And I saw numerous cases of children in debt bondage, and the child knew they had to stay with the sponsor until the debt was paid. Realizing that we were not offering the children the American dream, but instead putting them in modern-day slavery with wicked overlords was a terrible revelation. A terrible revelation. These children are a captive victim population with no access to law enforcement or knowledge of their rights. They are extorted, abused, neglected, and that is why I blew the whistle in 2021. I witnessed firsthand the horrors of child trafficking and exploitation. My life will never be the same after what I saw. But I have hope because I'm counting on you. It's my hope that you'll take action to end this crisis, to safeguard the lives of these vulnerable children.
So what you just heard was what mainstream media would call a whistleblower. Her name is Tara Lee Rodas, and she was explaining to us the dark side of migration, of these people that are coming through in the amount that they're coming through, and they're coming with children. And granted, some of them, they are giving their kids over to certain people that's telling them, hey, I have an aunt, I have a cousin, I have a friend that's going to provide a home and a shelter for your child. They're going to go to school, they're going to get everything done, and then afterwards, when they're settled, you can meet up with them. And then they're trusting these people, giving their kids to these people. I'm going to talk about this because it have kids concerning in it. And then they're giving their kids to these people, and these kids are trafficking their children. They're trafficking babies, they're trafficking toddlers, they're trafficking kids. Some parents may know what they're doing, but they say, hey, when you go there, you might not be able to work right away. You're going to be suffering. Hey, you have 3 kids. I'm going to give you $200 for each of them. I'm just showing out a number. I'm going to give you $300 for each of them, and then you could use that until you get your benefits. And they might know that they're going to traffic them, or they may not know that they're going to traffic them, but they sell their kids. So most recently, the Pasco County Sheriff, whose name is Chris Noko, that was on May 25th, and Sheriff Grady Judd, most recently, I think it was more like near the ending of May, Both of them had a sting operation, and they arrested a lot of wicked, evil people. And in their discovery, they discovered, they didn't actually say, the ethnicity or the race of these kids, but I was just putting two and two together. And they were saying how they found pictures of when they, arrested these people. The evidence that they found pictures of babies as old as a few weeks, 3 months, toddlers, young kids being abused by these older men. They don't know where these kids are. They just arrested the men and the pictures that they have and the evidence that they got, but they don't know where these kids came from. Me, I'm putting two and two together because it is said that there are 85,000 of all the immigrants that are coming in. There are like 85,000 of those kids that are unaccounted for. That's what they say. It could be more than that because you never know. They never get the actual number. So I'm saying the kids that are in the picture are some of those kids that are missing. Are they those kids that are in those pictures? Because like Miss Rhoda says, that these kids, some of these kids that are unaccounted for, that are not with their parents and stuff like that, they are being trafficked. They are being used as slaves in businesses, in people's homes, and they are not being paid. So this is another thing that's going on. Like I said, still not a plan. There was never a plan put in place. What are we going to do with people with families, with a mother that has kids, with a mother and a father that has kids? What are we going to do with kids that are just by themselves? What are we going to do with them? Where are we going to house them? What is the process of when they are at the border? What do we do with them? What they go on the bus? If they busing them? There was no plan put in place. There was no plan put in place at all. Just, okay, it's gone, Title 42. It looks like Title 42 going to end. We're going to get an influx. Okay, states who want to take them? Okay, we're going to do it. No, we don't want them. We don't want them. And then the ones that did take them, did they even have the funds to accommodate the amount of families that was going to come through? Did they sit down and have dialogue with the people that actually live there? How can they help? Maybe they could help. Maybe some of them were willing to take in some of the families. So it was disorder. This thing was just a bunch of disorder. And now kids, missing kids. Then you have crime might increase in the sense of prostitution or stealing, because now you heard, and supposedly the people were supposed to be working in 30 days, but it's been months. Many of them are waiting to work and they can't work. They have certain stuff they want to do and they can't do it. And then now everybody knows where these people are because of course they're hanging out in front of the hotel. And then now many people know that you guys are putting millions into helping them. I'm thinking, isn't that going to cause like a domino effect? Like now people are going to start attacking them out of, resentment and bitterness. Oh, you guys just coming through, and we've been here. We've been trying to get help for the kids, for the youth, for the veterans. This is another thing. If you have not watched United States of Tents, I'm gonna put it up here. It's a documentary, and it's particularly focused on veterans that have given their lives, to fight for this country, and how some of them, they may have issues. Some of them, fall into drugs and alcohol, but they want to better their lives. And then there are not a lot of help. There are not a lot of resources that they have access to. It's not a lot. They have it, but it's is probably not a lot for all the veterans. And mind you, this is what I say about the veterans now. When they go into the Marine or Army, Navy, or whatever it may be, they train them a certain way. They train them a certain way for battle. They train them a certain way for battle and for combat. And there is not really like a detraining, deprogramming process. So sometimes when they come back, they are not able to function in normal society. Some of them are not able to function in normal society. Some of them are not able to function in their families again. They can't get along. People don't understand them. And then they fall into different substances to cope with what happened to them and the training that they have, and why people not accepting them, why people not helping them out. And so sometimes certain people that have served, they have to be with like-minded people that have the same training as them. So in the United States of tents, there's a program that they make like smaller homes. All they need is like a lot from the city, and these homes can cost like $5,000 to $8,000 to make. And they are advocating, for the city and the different municipalities and the states to give them funding so that they could help build these different smaller homes in different states, because as we know, veterans are in all type of states. And I think it's just, I forgot, what's the United States of Kansas? Is it Kentucky or Kansas? It's one of the cities that have a smaller lot, and then they have the veterans that are there that, probably they they are divorced, they can't get along with the family, or family kicked them out, they were on drugs, but they want to better their lives. And then they have that in that city, but it's not widespread. It's not widespread because they don't have the funding that they need. So when people see this, and then you have veterans that are living in tents, because in the United States of tents, they did feature Miami, and not only Los Angeles have tents now. Tents is spreading in downtown Miami. It's a whole lot. Downtown Miami and over town, there are Wynwood. There are places in Wynwood that they have people that are in tents, and many of them are veterans. Many of them are veterans. Many of them are just people that, some of them, issues and whatever. Some people just can't afford a place to stay. They just can't afford a place to stay. And people are looking at this and saying, what are you doing about the homelessness crisis? Though the government do give places, resources and funding for homelessness and veterans, but I think sometimes there are people that are gatekeeping, that are in charge of some of these programs. They are abusing the programs. And I'm just going to leave it there. Because sometimes there are resources, there are funding, but then there are people that are in charge that are misusing it and using it for their own gain. And people that really need it cannot get the help. So let's say sometimes it's not that they're not getting funding. They are getting funding, they are getting grants, but they are misusing the funds, and the people the veterans and the homeless people and people that are in need, that need these funds, cannot get them. So that's why a lot of people are upset, because they get all this, and what are we getting? What are you going to do for the people that live here? What are you doing? You just forgetting about us, and you going for these people. But many people will say, well, you're supposed to accommodate people that are migrants and stuff like what. That you are a migrant also. Yes, I'm a migrant. So the Bible tells you in Leviticus 19 and 33 and 34, if this is the New King James Version, and if a stranger dwells with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him. Verse 34, the stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one born among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So this was God speaking to the Israelites, telling them how they supposed to treat strangers, sojourners, foreigners, because different versions, Bible versions, say different things. They say you're not supposed to mistreat them, and you're supposed to treat them just as you are treating the those that are born among you. Which a lot of people are going to say no, they're not treating the ones that are born among them. They're not treating us the way that they treating these people. They treating them better. People would say that. So this is commentary from the Blue Letter Bible. I'm going to show it here. Blue Letter Bible. It gives you a lot of context and commentary to certain things written in the Bible that people may not understand. And here it gives a commentary on Leviticus 19 and 33 and 34. So it was a charge to the Israelites to be very tender of strangers. Both the law of God and his providence and vastly dignified Israel above any other people. Yet they must not therefore think themselves authorized to trample upon all mankind, but those of their own nation, and to insult them at their pleasure. So it said, thou shalt not vex a stranger, but love him as thyself, and as one of thy own people. It is supposed that this stranger was not an idolater. So God was telling him to do this, considering this stranger is not somebody that's idolatrous, that does not know God, the God that they serve. So that's what he's saying. But a worshiper of the God of Israel, though not circumcised, because that's what showed that you were, with God, you had to get circumcised, even though they were not circumcised. But at least as long as they were not idolater, they serve other gods, do not mistreat them. So the person's supposed to have the same beliefs, same foundations, what you believe in. If you believe in the United States, you want the well-being of the United States. You always want the well-being of the United States. This person, this foreigner, is supposed to have this same type of mentality. So somebody like that, you aren't supposed to mistreat. So if such a one sojourner among them, they must not vex him, nor oppress him, nor overreach him in a bargain, taking advantage of his ignorance or of their laws and customs. They must reckon it as a great sin to cheat a stranger as to treat an Israelite. So strangers are God's particular care, as the widow and the fatherless are, because it is his honor to help the helpless. So that's one of the many foundational beliefs why, many people that may be in certain decision-making positions in certain cities and municipalities and states, why they are willing to help, the different migrants that are coming through. Some, because when you look at when the Haitian people come in, what happened to them, it's not the same treatment. I was going to talk about that, right? You had to know I was going to say that. Because when they came through El Paso, they didn't put them on no bus and ship them to Washington, D.C. I think it was like 24 hours, 48 hours, they was back to Haiti. So when the Bible is talking about, so if you're going to use the Bible, because y'all like to use the Bible to justify certain stuff that y'all do, but y'all don't really follow what the Bible says. When the Bible says foreigners and strangers, it said all foreigners and strangers. It didn't say a particular color or ethnicity or race. It was all. You can't treat this country a certain way and then you have another way that you treat another country. How's that fair? And then you want to use, the Bible says. Don't use the Bible. Because if you're not going to follow what the Bible says, don't put the Bible in your stuff. Don't put what God says in your things, because you're not doing what God said to do. So people are upset for many different reasons. Many different reasons. And then I saw this screenshot the other day. So this is a screenshot of a message somebody posted, I guess on their story or something like that. And somebody posted it on their community post. And they were saying, first credit card approval right after getting his ITIN. That's if you don't have a social security. I think that's what they are giving to a lot of the the migrants that are coming through, you got to start somewhere. Give him a year from now, he'll have 100K plus in credit without being a U.S. resident. So they say Mikhail Extraordinary's got approved for my first U.S. credit card. Bank of America, 1,000 USD limit, 0 credit score. So this person is saying how Mikhail Extraordinary's got somebody who's not a U.S. resident, who doesn't have a credit score. They got them a credit, look like an unsecured credit card, for $1,000. I'm not sure exactly how true that is, but so I could get to my other point, we'll consider it to be true. And why it could potentially be true is when you look at let's look at the race of people, the Colombians, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Mexicans, or whatever, Puerto Ricans that are coming through the border, and the amount that they're coming in. Many of them already have their family members or people that they know, people from their country, working in certain banks, working in certain banks, and they know their parents. So if, let's say, somebody, Juan Carlos, comes to apply for, he's been working and he wants to apply for credit card because somebody told him, credit card is good, as long as you paying, you use it and then you pay it off, it'll help you, especially if you want to buy homes and cars. So, but he does not have the credit. There are many Hispanic people that are, working in these banks. And they know their mom, they know their family and stuff like that. And they know these are hardworking people. They're not going to, just get the credit card and use it all up and don't pay. And if they ever did that, they could go to their grandmother or mother and tell them, say, hey, Juan Carlos hasn't been paying this credit card or whatever. He's on the people that are late. And they know the family will take care of that. So sometimes they're willing to overlook certain stuff or open certain programs for their people because they have a high position in certain banks, in certain credit unions, or certain stuff like that. Because it's a lot of them. They are many. They are many. And people could say, oh, we don't do that, stuff like that. What you know what people do? What do you know what people do? There are people that work in certain, everybody knows there's people that work in certain industries, certain offices. They look out for their people, whatever way they can, as long as they know the person is, they could trust a person. Sometimes you think you could trust a person still do you wrong. But sometimes the person know, hey, if I do this for this person, I know this person is not gonna put me to shame. So, I don't even need to go into all the benefits. There's a lot of benefits that the asylum seekers are getting, from housing to some people food stamps, to cash assistance, to paying for transportation so they could get to a different state, to their families, all different, from work, all time, and all kind of benefits. So it's different benefits, and people are upset, as they should be. People, you can't say, oh, why you upset? You don't want the migrants to live and stuff like that. They want to live too. But then when you look at people that were born here and the things that they are going through, the stuff that they trying to advocate for, and they cannot get it, or it's taking a long time for them to get it, or they have gotten it and then there are people who are in charge that are misusing it, people have the right to be upset. But where I'm going to look at it too, they just, one time Biden had said that the Hispanic people, the Hispanic race or whatever, the Latin race, is going to be the majority. It's going to be.
Today, it is no exaggeration to say that the future of the success of this country depends on Hispanics having opportunities and the tools they need to succeed. By 2040, this country is going to be minority white European. Hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do.
So sometimes instead of you fighting certain things that's inevitable that will happen, why not join them and collaborate? Of course, people are going to be upset. Why we need to do that, stuff like that, but it's already happening. It's already here. It's already here. And the fact that some of these people that are coming through, they are hard-working people. They truly come here for a better life. Some of them, no, they might be on some other stuff, but there are people that come here to build a better life for their family. They want to do better. And then they want to help the ones that could not come. They want to help them be in their country. So all of these people that are coming through, they need certain services. Like they need translation services. They're going to be going to immigration. They're going to need interpreter services. You, your sister and your brother, between three you guys, you all have like 5, 6 kids. Summer's coming up. Instead of having all these kids on TikTok learning all kind of dances, why don't teach them certain languages? Spanish, you have Creole, you have different people that Asian languages, because there are people from Asia that are coming through too. And then since they are so young, it's so easy for them to learn certain languages. Even you could learn the language. But that's not where we're thinking. We're getting upset and stuff like that. Because some stuff is inevitable. There are people that are in charge that's still going to put in the resources. They're still going to put in the money. What can you do so that you can benefit from that? That's how you're supposed to look at it. How can I benefit? How can I collaborate? Because with all these people coming through, some of them really want to work. It will be in your best benefit to learn their language. Maybe I'm dumb. It will be in your best benefit to learn the language. And to, just like other people are capitalizing, capitalize yourself. If all your kids, all of them, you have 3, 4 kids that know how to speak Spanish, they could start a translation service. They could start an interpreter service. But we're not thinking that way. We're not thinking that way because if you don't have the power to influence policies and laws, you're going to have to figure out a different way. And then not everybody going to do it, but we know some people are going to choose to be violent against some of these people. They were not the ones that approved the $51 million, the people in charge. And then that's another way. Who are you voting for? The people who you voted for, what type of people are they? So you speak by your vote. Oh, that's what you do? Okay, no, I'm not going to vote for you. And I'm going to let a good bunch of people say not to vote for you if that's what you're doing. But why not come together? Because as much of the amount of people that are coming through each and every day, it could be one day that they say it's mandatory for your child, for you, for certain jobs to have, you have to know how to speak Spanish because it's so much of them. So why not get a head start? Why not get a head start? You may be, hey, I can't learn anything or whatever. I don't have the capacity to learn anything. But you have kids, you have cousins, you have little nieces and nephews. Encourage them to learn Spanish. When they have Spanish in their classes, take it seriously. And then they have these other apps that teach you. I'm not going to say your name because I ain't giving y'all no free promo. But you know all the other apps that teach you languages during the summer. By the beginning, some kids are already out for summer. By the time they get to school, if they're learning Spanish, even if it's 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes per day, because that's what this app be telling me. All you need is 15 minutes. As soon as I don't learn the language. 15 minutes, that's all it takes just to learn, to get better, whatever. So, and to encourage a child, hey, you learn Spanish for 15 minutes, I'm going to give you $1. You know, kids, you don't need to give them a lot of money. And then dollars, you adding them dollars, by the time summer over, they're going to have a lot of money. They're going to have a lot of money. But it'll be for your benefit, so that when, they, graduate high school, or they trying to get a job as a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, they going to college, they wouldn't be overlooked because they don't speak Spanish, because they've been learning Spanish. Sometimes when you cannot stop a certain thing, you have to learn, you need to learn how to join it. How can I join it? How can I collaborate? How can I get in so that I can benefit also? Because those business owners, they're going to benefit, because in reality, they don't necessarily have to pay them what they would pay somebody that was a U.S. resident. And then they may pay them even more, because it's, they actually help in their business in a sense. So that's what I would say. That's my last point. If they had the city council meeting, people were screaming and shouting, people trying to, state their opinions, and nothing is done, because the $51 million is still going to go to the housing. What can you do to do better? If you're not thinking that way, you're going to get left behind, and then you're going to be mad. Oh, look at what they're getting. Look all they're getting, and stuff like that. You're going to be left behind. And then now all of these kids, because even though they have kids that are missing, there are kids that are with their family. So now their parents tell them, oh, you need to learn. They already speak Spanish. You need to learn English. They learn English and stuff like that. Now they speak English and Spanish. And then they going off to high school, and they able to go to school and stuff like that. Some of these kids are getting college scholarships, because their people made a way so they could pay for college for them. Now they going to college, getting college degrees, and the jobs that was supposed to be for your kids, they can't get them, because they looking for bilingual, and your child only speaks English. We have to think outside the box, because some things you can't fight it. You can't do it. You can do whatever, but it's not going to do anything. How can I come together so that I'm not left behind? So I'm not left out. So my family is not left out. That's how I see it. So, because I'm an asylum, I can never say, oh, they shouldn't get no asylum and stuff like that. Some of them really need it, because there would never ever be anything in their countries. Just speaking for me. Had I not come to the United States, I would have never did be anything in my country, period. So the United States made a way for me. So some of these people, not all of them are criminals. Not all of them. But I don't know how they vet them. I'm not sure. Because in the midst of the ones that really want to work, that really want to better their lives, there are some that they on some other stuff. They on some other criminal things. And it, makes the ones that do want to work look bad. So we'll see how this turns out. But I'm telling you, get together. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, that's all I had to say in this podcast. It's probably long, but that's all I had to say in this podcast. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another one. Bye.